So many people have been experiencing dizziness, spaciness, ungroundedness, vertigo, and as I suspected, especially when you have been to the doctor, there's no, like, you've been to the physicians and they can't trace any virus, any infection. The doctor said my ears were perfect. My blood pressure was perfect. My blood pressure is always perfect. I was shocked. I was convinced that whatever was going on with that 2-week spell of vertigo, that it had to be blood pressure, or it had to be something more serious, because it was so out of this world. But everything was fine, and the doctor just guessed, oh, it must be that the calcium's, sorry, I declined a call there, that the calcium crystals in your ears have gotten to the wrong place, which I've had that before years ago, but when I had it, it was from an infection. It was from the cold. I had a cold that caused, I didn't have any cough, any cold, no sore throat, nothing. This was so bizarre. And my gut feeling was, especially when I got things checked physically, that this was about quantum leaping into a timeline, like literally being vacuumed or sucked into this other timeline. And without going back into all that, so I've done 2 videos addressing that whole thing, and I talked about the spinning dervishes and how this feeling of discombobulation can be connected to entering a brand new world, a brand new organic timeline. And since then, the information that I've received is that if the dizziness is to the right, it's usually a sign that you are on the right track, you're on the right timeline. And if it's to the left, this is a general diagnostic tool that you can give yourself. If it's to the left, it's that you're not heading the right direction, and your soul is trying to pull you on the right timeline. Now, the worst, most difficult dizziness or vertigo for me was the right. It was the right side, which was unusual to me, because when I have a block physically, or a tension, or a pain, it usually hits my left side. Those of you who are members will know this from my videos. And the left side is about the feminine. It's the yin, it's the mother. It's the relationship with your mother and what you didn't get, or you did get, or you didn't want to get. And it's connected to the feminine. This was mainly, when I turned on my right side, oh my God, it felt like reality was ripping open and there was a tornado. And it was like I was being pulled into this tornado and I was being spun around. It was insane. I've never, ever, ever experienced such visceral, physical discomfort, shall we say, or challenging times in my life. So that's a little helpful tip to someone. If you can't trace a virus, an infection, you don't have the flu, because I didn't have any of those things. I didn't have a sore throat, didn't have a cough. By the way, I never get coughs. If I have a cough, it's so rare, so unusual. And what's interesting is my mother said when they were pushing and pressuring her to get me the whooping cough vax, she said, and I mean, she gave those vaccines to my brothers. But when the nurse was saying, you have to do that, my mom said something really strong inside her just said, no, you're not to give Aveen the whooping cough vaccine. And the whooping cough at the time, this was in 81, was absolutely rampant. There were children dying of the whooping cough. Like, it was a really, really bad thing going around. And my mum said, to her surprise, she just jumped off the chair and she said, no, I'm not going to take that chance. My brother had gotten that injection, and apparently he developed, not apparently, he did. He did develop extremely horrific eczema all over his body after that. And my mother did everything to heal it. It went on for months and months and months and months. And she said that her and my father hardly got a night's sleep. And she ended up with, there was a suggestion from a neighbour. A neighbour had a child who had a similar skin issue. And I mean, these kind of issues, babies will scratch themselves till they bleed and scar. It's really, really bad. She used to have to put little socks on my brother's little hands to stop him at night from scratching. And if you've ever had a patch of eczema, it is the most irritating thing. You know, I get one around my kind of hip, or just kind of between the hip and the torso there. It comes and goes, but it's, for me, the only thing that really gets rid of it is the sunshine. If I just lie out in a bikini and let the sun dry it up, it's gone for months and months and months, until for some reason it starts up again in the winter, usually when there's no air getting at it. It's only a tiny little thing, but it's imagine having that. You know, my brother was head to toe covered in it. So mom decided, so the neighbour said, look, I brought my child to this healer, the seventh son of a seventh son. He's based, I think he was in Carlow at the time, or was it Cavan. So at the time it was a bit of a hike to get there because the roads weren't what they are now. But you had to go 9 times. 9 is a magical number, my friends. 9 is the number of completion. So that was the deal. He didn't charge anything. You brought him a gift at the end of the 9 visits. It was very, very old school, the cure type thing. You had the cure for skin diseases, skin issues. And my mother she tried everything else. She had nothing left to lose. She brought my baby brother. Well, he was the baby at the time. I wasn't in physical form yet. And it worked. It was the only thing. She said one morning after the 9th visit, she got up and all the bad skin had just peeled off like a snake. And it was literally like an old dead skin he'd shed in the cot. And he was perfect. And to this day, he has beautiful skin. Absolutely gorgeous skin. His skin has never been a problem since. So, where am I going with that? Angels, where am I going with that? In these current times, we are being shown that all the things we thought were impossible, all the things that we wrote off as we just couldn't envision them in this world, in this reality. We are going to be pleasantly surprised at how the things that we try or we experience, and we don't even have much faith in it, you know. The energy I'm getting right now is that you don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to try so hard and exhaust yourself, dear one, because the work, the seeds, it's all being planted in solid, fertile ground. This year is going to be a whirlwind, and I feel that there was different layers to my episode there over Christmas. And if you haven't watched the video, there's one in me really, really sick. I've been vomiting all morning. My hair is all pulled back. I'm in a purple dressing gown. Then there's another one that follows on Christmas Day that I did. And I was still spinning. I was still really ill. But I was determined I was going to have a focused, enjoyable, calm Christmas. So one of the layers of that episode was showing me how things are going to be rattled, how our reality is being shook up. And I feel like already we've had a sample of this. Some of you have had something shook up, rattled, your reality rattled in the last few days. And this is the 7th of January, 2025, as I'm recording this. Now, this has caused fear to rattle you and come to the surface. Please look that fear calmly in its middle eye and just see through it like it's a piece of glass, like you're looking through a window. I did not prepare this message, as I rarely do. This is actually news to me. As you look it square in the face, understand that the only way you're going to be judged with whatever this is that's rattled you and come up to the surface now, it's the little tail end, the petering out of the year that was. All of our fears, our judgments, our criticisms that we put upon ourselves and then others hooked into last year and maybe all your life. That has to be condensed, experienced, embodied, integrated, digested, whatever word you want to use, metabolized, so that that reality crumbles and collapses now. Hope I'm explaining this in a way that you grasp, and I really believe that you are, because I don't believe you'd be here listening to this if it wasn't for you. So we've been given a reflection of our ability to stay calm as the whirlwind spins us round and round. And if we can go in center, that's what I had to do to survive that crazy experience. I had to find my center fulcrum point, and I had to stay in here. It was like, as long as I was in that consciousness in the center of my being, I was okay. As soon as I stepped out of that too early, or stepped out of that when truly I'm not supposed to be anywhere else but in the center of my being, my inner being's inner being, inner being. Once I connected to that inner being's inner being, I was safe and I was okay. It was still awful, but I could manage it, and I had the strength to manage it. That's another message. Whatever you're carrying right now, you must lighten in your consciousness to know you can rise above it, and that you have the strength, my friend. You can transform and transcend whatever this burden or challenge is. And I feel a lot of people have been rocked or rattled the start of this month of January. I feel that by the 15th or the 16th perhaps, there will be a grounding of that fear, an embodiment into the integrated inner being self, the center fulcrum point, that in that center place, you know that moving forward, things are only getting better and better. I want to also talk about this concept that we are living in an inorganic construct. So I'm going to do another video on that. And there is a return to innocence in the story of Adama and Eva, Adam and Eve, and the disclosure that is following, that is coming in the next several years, is connected to that story, because that story, the true story of Adam and Eve, explains so much of this crazy experience, adventure that we call life, that we call this world. And it also explains why. Why are we ascending? Why are we going into 5D? What's this all about? Like, why bother? And that's because, to put it into a nutshell, there's been a copy of a copy, and we left the original paradise and we're in this inorganic timeline. And so we need to, the whole point of moving up the scale, if you will, of ascension, moving up into a higher timeline, is because every time, it's like, think of a game. Every time you level up, you are entering back into what I'm calling the righteous timeline. Some people call it the true original timeline. It's the organic timeline. It's the natural earth, the new earth, which has had to become something else. This is the paradox of it. The original organic earth, that itself has had to evolve in order to meet us now, because we're ascending. So that's had to ascend so that we can merge and we can become one in communion, in union, and we are back on our organic timeline. And a lot of these ascension symptoms are pulling us, like the vertigo, like the dizziness, like people who are suddenly falling sick with all kinds of things, with the fog, you know. There's a lot of ideas about chemtrails, and there is, in the non-organic timeline, it can feel like a battle. It can feel like light and dark, yin yang, like, but we need to come together. We need to emerge and embrace all of it. You guys have heard me say this for so many years, and here I am saying it again, because the angels are saying, as long as you're dualistic, as long as you're on this side or that side, this is right, this is wrong, you're staying in a split reality. And the organic timeline is integrated. It's not segregated. It's integrated. It's interdependence. It's all is one, one is the all. On that note, the light in me recognizes the light in you.